A. So I have been seeing a lot of people recently saying that Volitaris has really bad gameplay, and that just really baffles me because I don't really understand why people are saying that. I think the gameplay is just fine, and I have strong opinions on this that I'll talk about in a minute. But it's okay. Just to start off, Xenobits had made a video talking about the epilogue and everything, and in the video he said that Volitaris has bad gameplay. So I asked him, why is it bad? I thought it was fine. He said extremely bad pacing to pad out the narrative. Basically every location in the new area feels the same and it takes forever to find anyone. And then someone else said the gameplay felt utterly pointless and a waste of time. It really could have been a movie in my opinion. And then even on my video, on one of my videos, a regular viewer of mine, Debus, he said mainly that it was just floating rocks with scattered reskinned enemies and nothing more. It didn't feel like feel very dynamic or interesting place to interact with. And I don't really agree with any of that because first of all, you're not even like forced to play through it. If you really don't want to, you can go straight to the final boss after you get your skill, which doesn't really even take that long anyway. There's like a path you gotta follow to finally get back to your skull, and then you can go straight to the final boss if you wanted to. And then along the way, like the path to the skull, the enemies are very easily avoidable. And speaking of the enemies, that thing about how the enemies are just reskin enemies we've seen before and nothing's really new, I mean, what do y'all expect? It's kind of that's the point. It's supposed to be that way. I think people are forgetting that Volitaris was a prison for Void. It's not supposed to be some fun place. Obviously there's not going to be a whole lot going on in there. It's a fucking prison. What do you expect? And the thing is, I think people fail to realize that gameplay can go hand in hand with like lore, and like sometimes the gameplay of a certain area or section of a game is because of the story or lore. It makes a lot of thematic sense for Volitaris to be the way that it is. Like I said, it is a prison that was made to house Void. They're not gonna like give them a playground in there. And then as for the enemies not being new, I mean, obviously the enemies aren't going to be new and just stuff we've already seen before. What's his name? Void created the Ganglion, and he's like the leader of the Ganglion. So obviously the place is going to be crawling with Ganglion and Prone and all of their technology. So why would we see anything other than Ganglion and Prone in Volitaris? That wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like sometimes gameplay has to be a certain way in order to fit with the story or lore. Like if the gameplay is drastically different from the story, then it just breaks immersion. So the one thing I can kind of understand is the characters being hard to find. That I can kind of agree with, because the only really indication you get of where they are is just like a glowing red spot on the map, and even then it's a pretty big area, like a big glowing circle on the map, so they could really be anywhere, and it doesn't tell you if they're inside of a cave or on the surface or anything. So I can understand that. The navigation to like find characters could have been better, but then again, they kind of just want you to explore the area, and I don't know. But Volitaris being just like a bunch of floating rocks and everything looking the same is kind of the point. It's supposed to. It's not like a giant continent or anything like Mira. It is a prison, so obviously it's all going to look the same. And in saying like it had nothing interesting, or what do you say? Yeah, it didn't feel like a very dynamic or interesting place to interact with. And then the other guy, the gameplay felt utterly pointless and a waste of time. It really could have been a movie in my opinion. Like, no, you aren't forced to play through most of it. If you really don't want to, you can get your skull and go straight up to the final boss fight. You're not forced to like slog through anything. And then even then, the area, like Volitaris itself, at least I had a lot of fun running around it and flying around it in my skull. The music is beautiful too. So I don't know, Volitaris gave me kind of big Xenoblade 1 vibes for some reason. But like I said, you aren't really forced to do anything. You're not forced to get the 6 spears that'll help you in the fight against Void. You can just completely ignore them and go straight to the final boss fight if you really wanted to. If it was bad gameplay, then it would force you to get through all the spears and just like take for, especially with those 3 Trinity Golders, that I can also see why that is kind of whack, because when we fight the Trinity Golders, they kind of like show in like a little mini cutscene them flying across the dam, flying across Volitaris to the other side of it, and they're right there where you first encountered them, and so it takes forever to actually find them. But other than that, Volitaris, it wasn't just some useless area that didn't have anything. We learned more lore about the Samarians with the spears. We learned more about the spears and what they were used for to keep Void under control, and just more overall lore about the Samarians from the spears. So I don't really understand why people are saying Volitaris has bad gameplay. No, it doesn't. Just because you don't enjoy it doesn't make it bad. I don't really understand what the issue is here, but I don't know, maybe it's just me who's fucking stupid and can't see why it's bad, but I think it's perfectly fine and people are just being over dramatic for no reason. It really wasn't that bad at all. You are not forced, and like even the path to get your scale is pretty straightforward. It doesn't really even take that long and you can easily avoid all the enemies. So I don't understand why are people saying it's as bad gameplay. It really does not. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but whatever. Let me know in the comments, because I'm really lost here on why people are overreacting so much about Volitaris' bad gameplay. It was useless. There's no point to have it. No, that's not true. Y'all are just being dramatic. But yeah, that's about it. See you next mission. Play some goddamn Xenoblade.